West Virginia needs a win to assure themselves, or at least come closer to assuring themselves a spot in March Madness. And they have a pretty tough team to do it against in the number 3 ranked Kansas Jayhawks. Mountaineers have to travel to the Phog to play the Jayhawks this coming Saturday. How will it go? And what do Mountaineer Paul and I think the result will be? Pull up a chair and we'll talk about it. What is going on, Mountaineer fans? This is Couz.
And I am Mountaineer Paul.
And we present to you
Hoops from the Hills.
Here we are again, Mountaineer Nation, and fellow college basketball fans. The West Virginia Mountaineers are getting set to take on the Kansas Jayhawks in Lawrence, Kansas at the Phog. In a very, very tough game. The Mountaineers need badly to win this game, in my opinion. And it would be a huge, huge win on their resume as they get closer to the selection committee making the decision on who makes the tournament. And West Virginia is right now sitting on the bubble, so this would help potentially get them into the tournament. So real quick, Paul, what do you think about this game initially, man? What are your thoughts?
Well, I was reading about this earlier. Bill Self in his 20-year career at the Phog is 305-17. Let that sink in. West Virginia is also 0-10 all time playing at the Phog. That being said, must-win game. And I think there are a few things that we need to do in order to compete in this game. I think getting to the free throw line is probably number one. And also defending the three-point line. I think it's going to be a big deal. Kansas shot 11 for 24 the last time we played them in Morgantown, and that was away from home. What are they going to do at home, where they play so much better? It's going to be tough.
Absolutely. Real quick, we're going to take a look at the team stats here, comparing these two teams side by side. I always like to do that in these videos. Hopefully, you guys appreciate it and it's useful to you. But when you look at points per game, obviously West Virginia is at 76.6, Kansas is 76.5, so actually pretty even on the scoring front. Points against 70.6 to 68 for Kansas. Field goal percentage 45 for West Virginia, 46.7 for Kansas. Rebounds per game, West Virginia's at 34.1, Kansas at 36.9. Very good team rebounding team. I mean, they just, as a team, they rebound the ball really well. They don't have one guy that dominates the boards, but the whole team just does a really good job of crashing the boards. Assists per game.
Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. Jalen Wilson. Yeah, Jalen Wilson does dominate. I'll cut that out. He leads the freaking conference. Jesus.
That's all right.
When you look at rebounds per game, you got 34.1 for West Virginia, 36.9 for Kansas. Very good rebounding team. Jalen Wilson leading the Big 12 in rebounding at 8.5 a game from the guard position, or at least the forward position. And it's just, they just do a really good job of crashing the boards. Assists per game, another area where Kansas shines. 13.4 for West Virginia, 17.3 for Kansas. They pass the ball extremely well, move the ball well. That's, of course, Bill Self's teams always do.
Always.
And they're one of the top in the conference, if not the top in the conference in turnover margin. So, or assist to turnover ratio, I should say. So they just do a fantastic job of controlling the basketball. And then blocks per game, West Virginia at 3.1, Kansas at 3.9. Steals per game, West Virginia 6.4, Kansas 8.8. And then, of course, streaks, West Virginia just coming off a win against Oklahoma State at home, and then Kansas has won 5 straight games. So they're on a roll right now. And they've beaten TCU, Baylor, at Oklahoma State, at Oklahoma, and then over Texas. So they've beaten some really good teams, beat TCU on the road. So some big wins there for the Jayhawks. So, Paul, when you look at those stats, man, what stands out to you the most?
Probably their team defense.
Yeah.
I just think it's so good and so underrated. And when you think of Kansas, you really don't think of team defense. You think of offense, right? High scoring, high flying, finesse. I've even heard people call them soft in the past. That's really not true, though. Bill Self is a tough coach. He demands a lot out of his players. Anybody who's ever played for him, if you listen to him say he's tough to play for. He demands, and you don't get the results. Now, do they have the best of everything? Yes, they do. But you still don't get this. He's had more success than anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody. Nobody does it better than Bill Self over the last 20 years. That's not Calipari. That's nobody. That's not even the guy, Mark Few at Gonzaga. Nobody. It's all Bill Self. So you've got to, and Hugs knows how to prepare for them. It's not really. Everybody knows what everybody does at this point. So it's about execution.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're at home, they execute at such an elite level. Their team defense, when you watch it, they move as one almost everywhere. They switch everything, and honestly, they're suffocating. So it'll be interesting to see how if Eric can get free in this game, if he can make a couple early and keep that Phog Allen crowd quiet. I think that's going to be a huge thing.
Right. When I look at Kansas, I look at balance. I mean, they're fourth in the conference in total offense, scoring offense, and they're fourth in the conference in scoring defense. And they're not bad at anything. I mean, they're not bad in any category. They're at least top 6 in the league in almost every single statistical category, and they're top 4 in most categories. I mean, they're just
right.
They don't have a lot of weaknesses. The one weakness they might have that West Virginia might could exploit, they are not great in 3-point shooting defense. They're 6th in the league. They're giving up 32% from 3. And West Virginia, on the other hand, is 2nd in the conference in 3-point field goal percentage offense, shooting at 35.7%. So if West Virginia can hit their shots, which, being on the road, they've not really done this year, at least not in conference. If West Virginia can hit their outside shots, they can beat Kansas. And another thing I think is a big key to this game is free throw shooting. West Virginia, if you look at the games they've won, they have outperformed their opponents at the free throw line in 2 ways. One, getting to the line more frequently than their opponents and making their shots. Kansas, when you look at free throw shooting, Kansas has only shot 503 free throws this year, whereas West Virginia has shot 663 free throws. It's about a 5 free throw per game difference when you look at the average per game. If West Virginia can get to the foul line more than Kansas and make their shots, that's another thing I think will be a key factor in this game. But they've got to make their shots, and they're not going to get a lot of opportunities in the paint to score the ball. So they've got to make their outside shots, and they've got to make their free throws. To me, and obviously the glaring thing is they've got to protect the basketball. They cannot turn the ball over because West Virginia has a tendency to turn it over a lot. When you look at the games they've lost, that's been one of their biggest weaknesses is turnovers. So, what do you think about those keys to the game there?
I think you're great. You're right on it. We're the exact same line of thinking. West Virginia's 5-2 when they have 10 turnovers or less this year. I think that's going to be a big key. So high free throws, high free throw percentage, low turnovers. I've said it to you a bunch this year. You've repeated it back to me a bunch this year. When we have high free throw attempts and percentage, low turnovers, this team wins games. That's a key to this team winning games. It's how they win this year. Yep. We're not going to out-rebound folks. We can hang in there, but we're not going to out-rebound most teams. We can stick around physically too, but we're not the team where we just beat everybody up either.
Yeah.
So we're winning different ways than we used to, and I think it's been a little bit of an adjustment period for Hugs to lean on those rather than some other things instead of just beating his head against the wall, things that we're not as good at anymore. And right. I think those adjustments have been made. So be interesting to see if that continues. I do think you're right about them being a very balanced team. They most definitely are. You have to watch out for them on the defense. And this is a big thing with them always in Kansas. Their defense obviously leads to transition offense. Yep. One of the best transition teams in college basketball year in, year out, usually a top 5 team in that area. So that's another thing to look out for.
Yeah. And obviously, being at the Phog, we know it's one of the toughest places to play in the country, as we mentioned earlier.
So tough.
Yeah. What right now ESPN matchup predictor has Kansas is the 79.6% chance to win the game.
And West it may Virginia, be higher.
Yeah. West Virginia at 20.4. I mean, so the deck's stacked against the Mountaineers here. But when you look at key individual players here, obviously with West Virginia, Eric Stevenson's leading the team in scoring at 14.6 a game, shooting at 43.7% from the floor and 79.3% from the free throw line. When you look at Jalen Wilson, Kansas,
good player,
probably the best, in my opinion, the best all-around player in the Big 12 and one of the best in the country. 19.9 points per game, leads the conference in scoring. And, oh, by the way, he also leads the conference in rebounding at 8.5 a game. So just a great player all around. And then West Virginia's leading rebounder is Jimmy Bell at 5.5 a game. And then from the assist front, Kedrian Johnson's leading West Virginia with 3.2 a game. And Harris from Kansas, 6.3 assists a game. So, it's going to be a key matchup there. Kedrian Johnson guarding Harris. Can he force Harris into some very, very rare turnovers? It's going to be key because we all know Kedrian Johnson's a very good on-ball defender. So that's going to be a key matchup to watch is Johnson versus Harris at the guard spot. Any other key players you want to talk about, key individual performers?
Well, for West Virginia, I do think Trey Mitchell needs to continue what he started again last game.
Right.
We need that consistency out of him. Oh, do we need it? And if we can get Trey, Emmett, and Eric all playing well in one game together, I think we have a chance to win this game. But they're all going to have to play well. It can't be Eric carrying the team unless he goes for 50. But we're going to have to play our best. We're going to have to bring at least our A game as a team to have a chance in this game. And that's not any slight against just West Virginia. It's just the facts. Kansas, man for man, is usually the better team. West Virginia can win the game. It's possible. But they're going to have to play good, and Kansas is going to have to play kind of bad. And I think most people that are logical about it would agree with that.
Yeah.
You don't get 305 and 17 at home over 20 years without being really good.
Right.
And you don't become 0 and 10 going somewhere without them being really good. You having trouble there. So I have hope. I always will have hope, but I'm also going to be logical about this game.
Yeah.
2 more to go after that if we do lose.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not all's lost if we lose this game. This is not
Right.
This is not a I don't even know if I'd call this. I said earlier in the intro, it's a very important game, but it's not. I wouldn't call it a must-win game. At least
No.
The last week's game or the Monday night's game was a must-win because it was at home against a team that you should beat. This is not a must-win. The next two, they might be must-wins, especially if you lose this one. But another key player for Kansas, Grady Dick. He's shooting 40.7% from three. 85% from the free throw line, just a really good player, really good shooter. Now he can score in other ways too, but I'm just really impressed with his shooting ability. He's a player to watch.
Yeah.
Along with KJ Adams down low, he's a good player down low, and then you've got obviously I mentioned McCullough earlier, and Harris the point guard. So just talent across the board for Kansas, man. I mean they're just stacked, man, stacked with absolute studs across the board. Bill Self just reloads every year, man. It's a little bit sickening, to be honest. But anyway, any final thoughts, Paul, before we jump off here, man? Score prediction.
Yeah.
What's your score prediction?
My score prediction for the game is I'm going to say Kansas 78, West Virginia 68. I think Kansas wins pretty handily at home.
Yeah, you're actually kinder than I'm probably going to be, man. I think Kansas wins and wins big. I think Kansas wins this game. I think they put up about 82 points, and I think the Mountaineers are going to stay around the 67 mark. So 82, 67 Kansas. I know 67 is a low number, but West Virginia has some struggles on the road. The Phog is going to be loud. I just don't know how West Virginia is going to be able to respond to that, and I think I think they're going to struggle to score, and I think they're going to turn the ball over a lot, unfortunately. And I think Kansas wins at 82-67. But, like we said, that doesn't mean I'm losing faith in my Mountaineers. I just think Kansas is that good.
Yeah, and this is actually the first time I picked against Mountaineers this year in one of our shows.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been pretty confident, but going on the road when you read the numbers your numbers never lie. That's I love one of the favorite sayings. When you read the numbers, 305 and 17 just blows me away. And it lets you know how little chance you have and how well you have to play to win there.
Right.
So
Everybody, please subscribe to the channel here. We're trying to get to that magical 1,000 subscriber mark that all channels aspire to get to, so that we can start making some moolah. And then also, please drop a comment below. Let us know what you think about this game. Give us your score prediction. Who's closer? Is it a 10-point game like Paul predicts? Is it a 15-point game like I predicted? Or you think it's going to be a closer game? Do you think the Mountaineers show up to Lawrence, Kansas, and give the Jayhawks all they can handle? And then, like the video too. Hit the thumbs up button. Show us that you liked what we're doing here. And tell your friends about us too, folks. If they like Western Mountaineer basketball, they need to join us here at Couz. If your friends like Western Mountaineer basketball, they need to join us here at Hoops from the Hills. So please share it with them as well as hitting the like button. And heck, if you think this sucks, hit the don't dislike button. We're big boys; we can handle it. Well, that being said, and also, guys, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we have new merch out now. Hoops from the Hills merchandise. Get you a T-shirt, several other items to choose from over there. The link to my merch store is in the description of the video. It's the Couz's Corner merch store. But Paul will get a piece of the profit if you take care of us and buy something. Paul will get a piece of the profit if you make a purchase of a Hoops from the Hills item from my merch store. So go check it out. We're proud to be bringing this merch to you guys and offering this to our listeners. With that being said, thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we're out.